President Trump and China's President Xi, they are due to speak today on trade and TikTok. It's going to happen this morning. On Tuesday, the president extending that deadline for ByteDance to divest TikTok's U.S. business. Join us right now on the national security implications of a TikTok deal. I want to bring in cybersecurity expert Chris Krebs, who served on the as the inaugural director of Homeland Security's Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency. Good morning to you.
Morning.
TikTok has been the sort of chess piece in this sort of larger trade negotiation for quite some time. Obviously, Congress decided also quite some time ago that it represented a national security threat. I'm curious as to whether you still believed it. Do you believe it was a threat to begin with, given that if so, we've been living with that threat for now over a year and a half, and whether the solution that's being proposed you think solves that threat?
Yeah, first off, Andrew, thanks for having me on. Look, I believe TikTok poses a risk. I think anytime you have the Chinese Communist Party with their thumb on the scale of the national conversation, particularly here in the U.S., it's a big risk. And so the Congress, as you pointed out last year, said, hey, we need full divestiture of TikTok if it's going to remain a going enterprise in the United States. And that's what we kind of see manifesting, at least today. But it has been, to your point, month after month of extension of not enforcing the law. And there are some remaining questions of whether this deal itself actually addresses the requirement passed in the, included in last year's legislation.
And so does it?
Well, it remains to be seen if that would actually be enforced. But no, I don't think that the deal itself, as it's been described and as we may hear later today, fully complies with the law. The law is clear. It requires a complete divestiture of TikTok from ByteDance from China. And as the deal has been described, there's a 20% hard cap, or 19.9% by ByteDance. So no, I don't think that complies. But that's not to say that there's not other good stuff in the deal. And this is without question progress. It is no more kicking the can down the road, but it is data security, privacy for users. It is a reduction of influence, but there are some lingering aspects like the ownership portion by ByteDance. And I think the real sticky wicket here is the algorithm itself. Who's developing, maintaining, deploying the algorithm that, frankly, determines what you see, what any user sees on the platform?
Look, I've always thought, and maybe you're going to disagree with me, I've always thought that to the extent TikTok represents a threat, it was always a prospective threat, which is to say that the government, if it so chose, could use TikTok in some nefarious way in the future. But that there has never been any evidence thus far that they actually did in a meaningful way. Do you agree with that assessment?
Well, look, so first things first, on the legislation itself, the intelligence community went in and briefed the entirety of the House Intelligence Committee, as well as the broader House, and it was a unanimous vote in favor of the bill. So there was something in that briefing that we have not seen that I think, frankly, should be declassified, or at least portions of that release, to let us know what so scared the House. The second is that the Department of Justice has alleged that ByteDance or TikTok officials have gotten down at the device level on journalists that have used the platform. So there's I think been some perhaps bad activity, but yeah, there is also a bigger specter of the manipulation factor that the algorithm presents that we need to be focused on, particularly at a time where information warfare, it's not just about cyber attacks, it is the information warfare and manipulating viewpoints across the national conversation.
Chris, let me ask you a separate technical question. It really goes to the question, it's not really, this is not national security at all, but it's technical, which is one of the things we're all hearing is obviously this is going to get moved over to this Oracle. It's already at Oracle, but some of this, the algorithm is going to get transferred and this and that, and it's going to take some time, and you might actually have to download a new app and all of these things. Do you think that TikTok will ultimately have the same kind of success that it's had thus far, or is this going to become a diminished product? Is this a big win for a Facebook and an Instagram, obviously owned by Meta?
Yeah, I don't know, right? We'll see. I think anytime that you force someone to add or download a new app, that you're going to see some disruption in the kind of transition from the old thing to the new thing. Branding remains same. You have the same experience. I suspect that you're going to have probably a pretty good chunk of the deal. I don't know if to the average U.S. consumer or user, who owns or who runs the platforms, frankly, a matter of concern. I think it's to the national security community we were just talking about, where the real, like, hey, is this good enough? Right. Who's doing the trust and safety work, content moderation, and the algorithm? That's going to be the big question.
Okay, now I got a big philosophical question for you to weigh in on. And maybe I can't put it in the context of national security in its own strange way. Joe and I were having a big debate this morning about free speech, about what's happened in the last week. Obviously, we're talking about Jimmy Kimmel on ABC, but we're also talking about social media. Do you think that there is any kind of groundswell anywhere in the country to change the laws around speech and responsibility, if you will, on these platforms? This goes to Section 230 and everything else, given the sort of remarkable polarization that we have in this country, and clearly the extremes and the nature of these tools, if you want to call them that, or apps, seems to be pushing people even farther apart.
Look, I mean, you absolutely hear a desire for something to change, but I am not picking up on any uniform or unified viewpoint of what that is. I think just like everything else, the national conversation is so incredibly polarized right now. And I think if you really want to kind of have the proxy conversation here is, how would a piece of legislation like that either changes 230, Section 230, or changes something else when it comes to the First Amendment, how would that get through a Congress, let alone this Congress? So, no, I don't think anything's likely anytime soon. There's not a whole lot of clarity in Washington, D.C. on what's next from a big legislative package perspective. So I think we're kind of stuck with what we got for at least the next 18 months, maybe even a little bit longer.
I just think there's both sides really do agree that something is amiss.
But both sides have tried it. That's the scary
when it comes to when it comes to what's happening on social media. And by the way, I think you could do it where you're not even going at free speech per se. I mean, even if you could get rid of bots, I mean, which obviously is something Elon Musk was trying to do or said he wanted to do when he was trying to buy X originally. Even if you get rid of just sort of the bots that are pushing things around. This goes to some of the national security issues, Chris, because I think people have a view that either China or Iran or others are somehow manipulating these tools. If you could get to a system where at least you knew that there were real people behind all of these things.
But if there was objective truth, maybe you could. But when it's subjective truth, you know what? I remember what that administration decided shouldn't be on Twitter, and now I'm looking at what the other administration decides what shouldn't be on Twitter. They're like not the same thing, and that, I think that's why absolutists say anything, you know, it's a slippery slope. You don't want someone deciding what you're allowed to see, because depending on, it could change every 4 years, Chris.
Look, every one of these platforms has the technical capabilities to reduce the presence of bots on their platform. About, you know, increasing transparency on what's an ad, what's being promoted. We've seen time after time over the last several years of these foreign influence campaigns that are paying users, paying influencers, in fact, to go and push a certain narrative. That can all be preempted on platform by trust and safety teams. But at the same time, we've seen a decrease in investment of trust and safety over the last couple of years. So the term trust and safety itself has been demonized. So we've got a lot that I think the platforms have the ability to do. They're just not doing it. And I think if we're resting our hopes here on the Congress to get in and meaningfully intervene, then we got a long way to go here.
Well, unfortunately, it's not just bots that are evil. People themselves are you allowed to say that person should be taken out? Are you allowed to say that on Twitter?
I don't know. You're allowed to say it on cable? It might have just happened.
No, I'm not.
That's a threat.
Saying any particular person, but are you allowed to say something like that? This person is terrible and something should be done about it. Are you allowed to say that still? I guess you probably could, because no one's watching, are they?
Trust and safety teams in the past have come after that sort of language and either suspended people or kicked them off platform.
They do. Okay.
Yeah, they do.